What's up, Fire Family? It's Kiahonfire and welcome back to Valheim. Today we're going to be looking at damage types and weapons. So in this video, we're going to be exploring which weapons are best against other types of creature. So with this, you have several different weapon types. You have weapons such as the Draugr, which will give a lot of pierce damage, especially if you upgrade it or use a better weapon type. You have the thing like a iron axe that will do slash damage. The sword is the same and will do even more slash damage, not by a lot but a good amount. You have the bow that will focus mostly on pierce damage. You have a sledgehammer that will focus on blunt damage. You have some weapons such as the razor, so a small knife that will do a mixture of damages such as slash and pierce. You got a mace that will do blunt, and then you got the spear type that will do pierce. So technically you only have a few types, and with some of the arrows you also have different types such as spirit and pierce. So pierce is normal, spirit is slightly different. So with this one we're going to be checking out which is best against what and what they mean. So really in the game you have pierce, slash and blunt damage, and that's pretty much your main three that you're going to get on most weapon types. And then of course you have the different types of arrow that will do slightly different damage, such as fire damage, frost damage, poison damage and spirit damage, and those can be good against different things as well for different reasons. So let's head into the testing area to go ahead and try some things out. Probably going to get pretty beaten up in this video because I do have to be showable for the creature for it to actually hit me, and I don't get the surprise damage on it, so I don't get like an inaccurate result. So I'll start off with something as simple as skeletons. So we have a skeleton here. He's pretty mad. He's noticed I'm here now, and we're going to go test some damage types out on him. So I'll try the Draugr first and see. I'm just going to use a normal attack on this guy. So as you can see, this pierce damage is not doing a lot on this skeleton. It took 3 hits to kill this skeleton, which, well, is not very good to be honest. So now let's try a different kind of weapon. Let's use a sword that primarily focuses on slash damage. That did 36, much better than the pierce damage, but still not as good as it could be. And then finally, let's get our other skeleton out. We're going to use blunt damage on this guy. Now, blunt damage is actually really good against skeletons, because it's very blunt and you can break all the bones. So we hit him and he dies in 1 hit with 69. So that is an incredible amount of damage to the skeleton, and a very good way to get rid of them over having pierce or slash damage. You might be asking as well, what about a combination? So like this knife here. Well, knives are usually pretty good for sneak damage, I'm not going to lie. You sneak up on a deer or a boar and you hit them with a knife. But I haven't found a lot of use for knives in like the later game, if I'm honest with you. So we're spawning another skeleton. So usually you could actually go about using backstab damage on this guy for this kind of thing. It would be very good. But as you can see, with this kind of combination, it's not very good. I did parry him, so I did a little bit additional damage, but it's not great. And your real victor here is definitely going to be things with blunt damage, such as the sledgehammer and the mace. And of course, Valheim really picks its times to go and raid me, of course, as well, with these guys. I suppose while these guys are here, we might as well test what arrow type is best against these. So we'll start with a fire arrow, because usually with cold things, the fire is best against them. So that did a total of 30 damage, and it's doing 3.3 per tick. It's still going, did it a few times. Let's try a different arrow against them. Let's try bronze-headed. I'm just going to wait for one of them to come towards me again. See how much damage we do there. 41 if I'm right on that one. So again, not fabulous. Let's try the silver arrows on them. I don't think I'll get a very good result on that other Draugr, but we might on the other Draugr. Let's have a look. I hit that. That was 75, so that's the best so far out of all the ones we've tested, which is really nice. So that was silver. Let's try something like poison arrows, because poison doesn't have a lot of effect. So that's 37 and a 4.18 tick damage there. That's decent enough if you want the tick to keep going. Let's try frost against these guys now. See what that does. We hit the Draugr, 56. That was really high actually for what I was expecting. Alright, let's try some iron head arrows. So this is just a lot of pierce damage really. 48, really decent as well. And let's try, last but least, the needle arrow. Actually, no, we still have the obsidian arrow to use on these guys as well. Wait for another one to come in. 79, that's a lot of damage. And then finally the obsidian arrow, if I can get this Drake before it decides to run away. 63, so of course the bigger the pierce damage on this, the better it's going to be at killing them off. Unfortunately, like I said, with Drakes you can't really get up there in the sky to damage them with anything else but pierce damage, so that's the kind of arrow test you have there. So if you want the best damage kind of on these guys, it seems like the needle, obsidian, and actually the frost arrow does a lot of damage on these guys. Trolls are quite a prominent part of the game, so you always have like a problem with them. So let's see what damage does the best against these. That is 46 with that one. We'll just pierce it again. 55, pierce it again. 54, so roughly in between the lot for the pierce damage. Now let's try slash damage. 40, 50, so roughly about the same but a little worse. So not fantastic against the troll. Let's try something like blunt damage, see how that affects Mr. Troll. It gives me a chance. 17, 16, so you see blunt damage is absolutely awful on a troll. And then let's try the spear. So you can pretty much see that this pierce damage is definitely going to be the best when it comes against trolls. So bow and arrow of high damage is probably going to be your best methods about getting rid of the trolls. Or something like this, and you could use the spin attack with it as well against the troll. I'll spawn in another one to see how that actually affects him. It actually does a lot. Do it again. It actually is parrying him a lot of the time as well. As you can see, troll is getting parried, and he hasn't been able to hit me properly yet either because of this. Just constantly getting parried by this weapon. So we've tried trolls and skeletons and drakes. What about something a little bit more mysterious, such as the Wraith? So the Wraith is something that comes out only at night in the swamp and can be pretty deadly if you're ill-equipped to deal with it. They're also incredibly creepy and all of that jazz. So let's try using pierce damage on it, shall we? So I'm going to go ahead, 19. Let's try the big spinny attack, 17.6. That is barely any damage at all, so that's going to be a bit of a struggle bus. Let's try something like slash damage. 17, 23, not great either. So the sword will probably do about the same. Yep, 15, which is awful damage for this guy. Let's try something with blunt. You know what? We haven't used the sledgehammer yet. Let's use the sledgehammer. 25. Kind of hard to tell with all the splattering around. Let's try something a little bit more precise, such as the mace. 18, 17... 17. So of course you see that none of the types are really doing well against this guy at all. They're not really damaging much. Well, I can show you something that's really good at killing wraiths actually, if you're actually having a struggle with them, or perhaps you want to farm chains out of them. And what you want is actually silver, such as the silver arrow, or you want something such as a silver sword or another silver item. So if we spawn in this wraith, we're going to use a silver arrow on the wraith. You can see I've done quite a bit of damage to the Wraith already, and he had a burn effect as well. So if the Wraith hasn't seen you yet and you see it, you go ahead and you do a shot on it. You can see I literally just one-shot that Wraith. Now what about something a little bit more spicy? So like the Draugrs in the swamp that you're gonna get. Those very angry dead Viking dudes. So they're again an undead type. So usually with undead you'd think blunt damage is great, right? Well, not particularly on a Draugr. Let's try another weapon type like pierce damage. 40, 46, 65. And let's bring in another one. We're going to try some slash damage with the normal iron sword. Let's just get this guy to notice me. We're going to do some slashing against him. That took about 2 hits to do. 77, 36. So slash seems to be best against them so far. And let me bring in another one. Let me just test this out. 33, 69. So yep, it's taken 2 hits so far to kill it with the sword. So slash damage seems to be pretty good against the Draugr. So what about blobs? Blobs are really annoying parts of the swamp, and there is a really good weapon type against these guys. It's actually blunt damage. Blunt damage is fabulous against blobs. So we're going to go hit him, and you one-shot the blob in one go. Let's try a little bit of a harder blob, shall we? Let's try an oozer. You one-shot the oozer, and you one-shot, oh, nearly the Blob. So blood damage is absolutely excellent against these kind of guys, and it's something you definitely want to use against things like bone mass as well, since he is basically a massive blob. So you could say blunt damage is quite the king when it comes to defeating things in the swamp biome. Let's try something a little bit out there. How about a werewolf? That would be a good try to use something against this guy. So he's quite the pouncer here. He's not very friendly at all. Let's try some of our attacks against him. We'll try the Pierce. Pierce didn't do an awful amount against him. You can see it's doing a very shoddy amount against this target. Let's try something like slash damage. Might be a little bit better. 49. Pretty decent, but still not great. 53. So there you go for that one. Let's try... You know what? We haven't had the dagger in a while. Let's try the dagger, shall we? See how it does. It's going to do 13 damage, which is awful damage. So let's try the mace for some blunt damage. 50, 43. So this is quite the hardy one. Now we could try some silver damage on him, since he seems to be a little bit of the undead. 52 is still pretty good on this guy with that additional damage as well. So it could be an option here to use some silver against this guy, but of course you're probably not really going to have silver until you finish going around in the snow biome. So by the time you get silver arrows for this boy, you're probably not going to be fighting many of them, because you're going to be moving on to the plains biome. So for now, it would seem, I think the slash is going to be the cake winner on this one for taking out these guys so far. And since we're in the snow, we're bringing one of the most annoying targets in for us, which is going to be the wolf. Arguably one of the harder mobs to deal with in the snow, so let's try this wolf. I'm going to give it a good old slash. 43, pretty decent. Let's get a two-shot it. Let's use a normal attack. 37. So we got slash damage. Let's try slash damage on this guy. 50, 82, but that was because of parry. Let's try the sword, which is also slash damage, but slightly higher. 36. Let's get a free shot this guy, which is not great. So again, slash damage probably isn't king here. Try some blunt damage on this puppy. So 34. 53, not fantastic again, but it is okay. And you know what, let's try the spear. 42, 48. So I'm going to say probably things such as the spear or this is good at doing wolves. The problem is with the mountains, it's very lumpy, so if you were to use the spear only really hits about waist height when you stab with it, so you'd either want to throw the weapon or not, which I don't think is really a good idea in the snow, especially with packs of wolves if you were to throw the spear. So probably using this weapon probably be better at doing that, because you can spin with it as well. Or using something as your bow and arrow would probably be a really good way to take out the wolves. Let's try something else out, like the Fulings, aka the goblins, which are an absolute pain in the ass to deal with. Of course, when you're in the plains biome, they're very strong. So let's try 33 on the pierce damage. Could be living up to my name on this video, apparently, with this guy. 28, so pierce damage doesn't really seem to be great against this guy so far. Let's try something such as slash damage. 34, not great again, but a little bit better. Alright, let's try again. 31, not great. Let's try the pierce attack. 93, that's pretty decent on the goblin. I'm going to try that again with the slash damage with the sword. 121, so that seems to be really good, the middle mouse attack so far on these Fulings. And 111, so that's actually really, really strong damage, which two-shots them, which is absolutely fantastic. So the slash not so good, but the stab is very good. Try the mace's middle attack. 126, that's actually really decent. And let's try it again on another one, a fresh target. And we'll try the swing, 122. So again, that's going to be really good. Like the middle mouse sword attack is going to clap these goblins instead of using the normal attack, which isn't really great. They all seem to do about the same damage there. 41, that does pretty high damage above the other ones with a normal hit. But again, you're still going to get that middle click with this is going to be so much better than the other ones. So probably a mixture of either using this nice hatchet here, or definitely a mixture of using middle mouse button attack with the mace or the sword. Let's try something a little bit more spicy, shall we? What about a berserker? Berserkers are pretty hard to deal with, and usually you only want to use a bow attack against them, because otherwise they're going to be a pain in the ass. So the highest so far? 48 damage it seems to be on this dude. So that again is not great. Let's try some slash damage. 52, that seems to be the highest so far on this guy. What about middle mouse attack? 128 again is doing a hell of a lot. Again, remember, if you're using those kind of attacks, they're going to take a lot more stam than a normal attack was. You saw that it almost took like a whole bar of me. If this guy could stop clobbering me. But the normal attack was take a lot less than the other ones. Let's try some blood damage. Try and play him at his own game. 44. Decent, but nothing special. And what about the mace? 52. It's really decent. 40. Not so great. See if I can stop him flinging his little bat around. Let's try. 132. So middle mouse again is going to be pretty good on these guys in comparison to the other attacks. That or using the slash attack of something like a hatchet is also very decent. But usually with goblin types, I would usually recommend using either a sword and a shield, mace and a shield, or probably a hatchet and a shield really, and using parry as much as possible against Fulings, because parry is pretty OP against them. It will stop them attacking you, and then you can go ahead and attack them and do some additional damage. I definitely recommend parrying. Actually, I recommend parrying a lot in this game with most things if you can manage it, but of course it's not always an option, so that's why I thought I'd show off some of the attacks with you guys in a controlled environment where you don't have to get hurt or lose any health or your stuff. What about if we go for something a little bit bigger, such as the locks? You might usually only use bow attacks against these guys. I know I usually only really do that either. He could be a little bit hard to test against. 45 with the Adaga. 27 with a direct hit, which again is a little bit trash. Let's try hitting him again. Alright. 20 with the hatchet, so that's really bad actually. Let's try giving him a poke. If he would stop moving. He's frightened, poor dude. Even the poke doesn't do a whole lot of damage, so the poke isn't like your, you know, your be and all and end all when it comes to these kind of things. Try some blunt damage. 24. So this guy is very, very tanky. Very tanky indeed, and I'm not doing a lot of damage either way to him. So currently it would seem the highest we're getting is 40s, and that is with pierce damage. If you do want to take on these guys, you either want to parry them, of course, or you want to kind of take them on with something that does pierce damage. So your best thing will probably still be using really high pierce damage arrows to get rid of these lovely loxes. Yeah, absolutely, I'm going to use some obsidian ones against these guys, although I do highly recommend Death Skeeter arrows, because they also do an incredible amount of pierce damage on them. I'm getting high 70s with a full charged bow. Of course, you're going to get better with a better bow, such as the Draugr bow, which you probably will have before you start taking out loxes. If you don't, then you're an absolute madman, and big respects. But pretty much, yeah, you're probably going to still want to stick to the bow, or you're going to want like a high damaging pierce weapon at least with these guys. Of course, you know, I'm only trying this with iron because I want to kind of step in the middle ground here with the weapons. If you're wondering why I'm not using things like Porcupine or the Frostner or anything like that, it's because they will do similar things but not quite the same. But of course those are kind of endgame weapons, and you're not really going to get a good test with those exactly, are you? Because you're going to be one-shotting pretty much everything. But the frost damage and the spirit on the Frostner is very good against a lot of creatures. I'm not going to lie, it's very, very, very good. And last but not least, let's try a Greydwarf brute. Why not? He's still a pretty hard dude to come across in the beginning of the game, so it might be worth knowing what's good against these. 43 with a pierce so far, 44, 34. So it's taking me about 3 piercing hits with this guy to get rid of him. Let's try another one. There we go, we have another one. Let's try some slash damage. You know what? We use the sword. Get him to notice us. 27, 31. It's worse than the piercing actually. So let's try this one. 41, 43. A little bit better with the hatchet there. We're spawning another one. There we go. Let's try some blunt damage against this baby. So come here, my friend. Buddy old pal, Mr. Greydwarf. Alright. Let's hit him. 36. 43. So not wonderful at all there. I'm gonna pierce him again. Oh, don't want to do fist damage. Oh, well, unless you do. 40 with a pierce, 40 with a pierce again. So it would seem either a mixture of the hatchet or something like a spear would be good against these guys so far. The mace isn't great. Let's try a middle mouse attack on them as well, just to see. Alright, we got another one. Let's try the middle mouse attack. 78 does quite a lot against him, but again, you're going to have low stam in this kind of environment when you're killing these guys, so you might want to not use that, or you might want to use that. It depends. Let's try this guy. 89, so probably a sword with the middle mouse attack is going to be the best against these big brutes or the Greydwarf types when you're early in the game. So just a low bronze sword or an iron sword, probably going to help you a lot in those kind of cases if they're really bothering you. Let's try something a little bit out of the blue, something a bit different. So these guys, so give them a go. It's probably going to mess up my place a lot. The pierce is very bad on this guy. 28, 24, not great at all. Let's try some slash damage. 18. What about the middle mouse hit? Let's try that one, if I could get a nice edge on him. 42, still not doing a lot. Let's try the sledgehammer. Come here, buddy. That does quite a lot on the stone golem, but again, it's definitely using something like this. This seems to be doing a lot of damage against this guy. That absolutely destroyed him. 128 damage. If you could whip in a swing attack there, that would really help you crumble them rocks. I was surprised he didn't murder my arena though. Anyway, I hope that gave you an idea on some of the weapon types and what to use on different creatures in Valheim. This was a fun test to do with you guys. I hoped it opened up some doors. Let me know if you want me to test anything else, or what would be guides that you would want to look into on Valheim. Covering it a little bit at the moment. I'm really enjoying it. So anyway, thank you for watching. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.